It was a quiet morning on Route 46, the kind of morning where the mist still clings to the edges of the fields, and the sky blushes softly before the sun fully rises. The little diner by the road had just come to life. The silver bell above the door jingled whenever someone stepped inside, and the smell of fresh coffee mixed with the buttery scent of pancakes and toast. Behind the counter stood Lydia Morgan, a woman in her early 40s with tired eyes but a gentle smile. She wore her faded blue apron with pride, even though it had a coffee stain or two that no scrubbing could remove. She had been working at Rosie's diner for almost 12 years now, long enough to know everyone who came through those doors. Every morning, she wiped down the same counter, filled the same sugar jars, and turned the open sign just as the clock struck 7. And like clockwork, at 7:15 a.m. sharp, the familiar rumble of an old silver pickup truck rolled into the parking lot. The driver was always the same, Tom Harris, a construction worker who started his day before most of the town was even awake. He was in his late 40s, tall, quiet, and always wore the same worn-out jacket and dusty work boots. Tom would walk in, nod politely, and sit in the same corner booth by the window. He never looked at the menu because he didn't need to. Lydia always knew. "Morning, Tom," she'd say. "Morning." "Lydia," he'd reply, and she would pour him a black coffee, no sugar. No cream, just hot and strong. Sometimes, if the diner was quiet, Lydia would chat with him a little. Tom wasn't a man of many words, but he listened.
He'd ask about her son, about school, about how business was going.
And when he left, he always placed his dollar tip under the edge of his mug, always the same, neat and folded. Life moved like that for months. Slow, steady, simple, until one cold Tuesday morning in November. That day, the bell above the door rang as usual, but when Lydia looked up, something about Tom felt different. He looked pale, the kind of pale that comes from more than just lack of sleep. His shoulders were slumped, his eyes dull. "Morning, Tom," Lydia greeted, though her voice softened. "Rough day?" Tom sat down slowly and rubbed his hands together before answering. "Yeah," he muttered. "You could say that." Lydia poured his coffee and set it before him. "Everything all right?" For a long moment, he just stared at the steam rising from the cup. Then he said quietly, "My boy's in the hospital." "Car accident last night." Lydia froze. She didn't know what to say. She'd never seen Tom look so broken. "I'm sorry, Tom. He's alive," Tom interrupted gently. "But it's bad. They're saying it'll be a long road." The words hung heavy in the air. The diner was nearly empty, just the hum of the refrigerator and the faint ticking of the wall clock. Without thinking twice, Lydia reached for a paper bag and slipped a blueberry muffin inside. She placed it next to his coffee. "It's on the house," she said softly. "For the road. And for your boy," Tom tried to protest. "No, Lydia, I can't. Let me do this one good thing today," she said firmly, her eyes kind but steady. He hesitated, then nodded. His voice cracked a little when he whispered, "Thank you." When he left, the bell above the door jingled again, and Lydia watched through the window as his old truck disappeared down the misty road. The next morning, he didn't come, nor the next. Days turned into a week, and a week turned into 2. The silver truck no longer showed up at 7:15. The booth by the window stayed empty. Lydia told herself he was probably just busy, but deep down, she feared the worst. Each morning, when she brewed the first pot of coffee, she couldn't help but glance toward that corner. She even kept a blueberry muffin ready, just in case. It sat untouched every day. One morning in December, the first snow of the season dusted the diner's windows. Lydia was pouring coffee for a group of truckers when she heard it, the familiar rumble of a pickup. Her heart skipped. When the bell jingled, there he was. Tom, standing in the doorway with snow on his jacket and a small smile on his face. "Tom," Lydia exclaimed. "You're back!" He chuckled softly. "Yeah, been a rough few weeks." She looked at him, searching his eyes. "How's your son?" Tom's smile grew a little wider. He made it. "Doctors say he's got a long recovery ahead, but he's going to walk again." Lydia felt a wave of relief. "That's wonderful news." Tom nodded and reached into his jacket. He pulled out a small envelope and a bundle of wildflowers, their stems wrapped in twine. "From my boy," he said. "He picked these himself. Said they're for the lady who gave you the muffin." Lydia blinked back tears as she took the flowers. They were uneven and a bit wilted, but to her, they were more beautiful than any store-bought bouquet. She opened the envelope and found a short note written in shaky handwriting. "Thank you for being kind to my dad. He said your muffin gave him hope when he was scared. I'm doing better now. Sam Harris." Lydia pressed the note to her chest. "Tell him I'm proud of him," she said softly. "I will," Tom replied. "And Lydia, thank you for what you did." From that day on, Tom never missed another morning. He still ordered black coffee, no sugar, no cream. But now he stayed a little longer. Sometimes he'd bring a photo of Sam's recovery to show Lydia. Other times, he'd just sit quietly, enjoying the warmth of the diner and the comfort of someone who cared. Every Friday, before leaving, Tom started a new habit. He'd buy a muffin, blueberry always, and leave it beside the tip jar with a folded note that simply read, "For someone who needs a little kindness today." At first, Lydia smiled and tucked the muffin away. But one day, a tired delivery driver came in with nothing but coins in his pocket. Lydia saw the muffin and remembered the note. She slid it toward him and said, "This one's already paid for." The man's face lit up. "Are you sure?" "Positive," she said. "Just pass it on when you can." And so the kindness spread. Weeks turned into months, and Rosie's diner became known around town as the place where kindness starts with coffee. People began leaving notes with their tips. For the next person who looks tired. For the single mom who needs a break. For whoever needs a reminder that good people still exist. Sometimes Lydia would find a flower on the counter, or a child's drawing, or a folded dollar with the words "thank you" written in pencil. No one said who started it, but everyone knew. One morning in early spring, Lydia came in to open the diner and found something unusual. There was an envelope taped to the door. It read, "To the coffee lady." Inside was a simple card and a photograph of Tom and his son, Sam, standing side by side. Sam was holding a football, grinning ear to ear. The note said, "Sam's starting college next fall. Says he wants to be a doctor. Said it's because of the kindness he received when he was sick." "You were a part of that. Thought you should know." Lydia smiled, tears filling her eyes. She tucked the photo beside the register where she could see it every morning, and from that day on, whenever she poured the first cup of coffee, she whispered softly to herself, "Kindness never really ends. It just keeps finding new hands." Years passed. The diner changed owners, but Lydia stayed. The coffee machine was replaced, the walls repainted. But the spirit of kindness never faded. Even after Tom's truck stopped showing up, after he moved away to live closer to his son, people still came in asking, "Is this the place with the free muffins and the notes?" And Lydia would smile and say, "Yes, it is." Sometimes she'd tell the story. Sometimes she'd just hand over a muffin with a quiet nod. Either way, kindness always found its way to someone's table. One snowy morning, years later, a young man in a college sweatshirt walked into the diner. Lydia didn't recognize him at first. He looked nervous, holding a small paper bag. "Hi," he said. "You probably don't remember me." "I'm Sam Harris." Lydia's eyes widened. "Sam, Tom's boy?" He smiled. "That's me. Dad told me to stop by if I was ever in town." Lydia came around the counter and hugged him tightly. "Look at you! All grown up," he laughed. "I'm in medical school now. I just wanted to say thank you for what you did for my dad that morning. He never forgot it." "Neither did I." He handed her the paper bag. Inside was, of course, a blueberry muffin. Lydia chuckled softly. "You didn't have to, I know," he said. "But I wanted to." He paused, his eyes warm. "Dad always said that muffin tasted like hope." Lydia blinked back tears as he turned to leave. "Take care, Sam, and keep spreading that hope." He nodded. "Always." As he stepped outside, the snow began to fall, soft, quiet, gentle. Lydia watched him walk toward a silver car parked by the road. For a moment, she thought she could almost see Tom's old pickup there instead, covered in a light dusting of snow. She smiled. The bell jingled as the door closed, and the diner fell into its familiar rhythm once more. Lydia poured herself a cup of coffee, looked out at the empty booth by the window, and whispered, "Some stories never really end. They just keep pouring, one cup at a time. Morale, kindness doesn't fade, it travels. A simple act, even as small as a muffin and a kind word, can ripple through years and change lives in ways we may never see."